Hi Sophie, welcome along today. Welcome to our Resource Revolution Thought Leader series. This time we're looking at waste and taking the debate right back to start of life, which is the design phase. And you live as an eco-designer by a great mantra, which is waste is a design flaw. Can you explain more about this?
Well, it's a very interesting concept, isn't it? The fact that actually we build in the life of a product when we design it. So this idea that actually a product should have a sort of very short-term existence with the user and then where does it end up? No one really seems to be designing for a system which actually picks it up and takes it to another place, you know, pushes it along the flow, for instance. And for me, that's actually fundamentally where designers can improve things, because actually, you know, we are in a position where we can specify the materials, we can understand how how long a product lives with the user, where it ends up, how we communicate then across the system so the user understands, the consumer understands where it goes next in the flow. So for me, it's so important for designers to really understand the tools of their trade, you know, the materials and the kind of systems that they work with. And if you have designed in waste, then actually it just means that you're not actually understanding the society and the structures and the infrastructures that we live in and we're designing for.
And another sobering thought is around 80% of a product's environmental impact is actually locked in at the design phase. So, I mean, how do we begin to unlock this?
Well, I mean, I think there's great opportunity actually. When I talk about that statistic, I see it as actually a potential. You imagine if you switch that 80% to a positive, you end up with a very powerful design industry who can actually really change the way that things flow through. I think some of the information that we've been gathering from the Great Recovery workshops and from the initial investigations we're doing about the way things are designed currently is that there's plenty of opportunity to actually design in something where there's a positive outcome. And that is all about the system thinking behind the product. And it's all about the material flow as well as the information flow. So it's not just about product designers, it's actually about, you know, user experience people who have, you know, service designers. It's about communication designers as well. So it's all of the industry coming together and actually putting their piece of understanding on the table and then making sure that those, you know, that flow of information and materials continues.
And some of these issues you're addressing now, aren't you, through your own Great Recovery project, which is around trying to understand our existing production cycles and how to reconfigure them, so not only to recover waste but actually to optimise material use. And this does require collaboration across the whole value chain. So who are you bringing into the mix right now?
Well, we started the project in September by initially mapping out what we're calling the circular network, and it's effectively 8 groups of people that interact with materials and with products and with services and with manufacturing. So you have manufacturers, brand, B2B, you have material scientists, you have resource manufacturers and resource recoverers, so the kind of landfill and the kind of the recycling facilities. You have policymakers in there as well, you have education. And all of those people, as well as designers, that big chunk of designers sitting there, we see as being part of the collaboration, the co-creation model. Because fundamentally, if you want to design for a circular system, you cannot design on your own, and you cannot produce on your own, and you cannot recover on your own. You have to have that conversation. If you want to start addressing that, reducing that 80% of that waste, then or that impact, and make it positive, you have to design with the material expert, but also with the resource recovery guys there as well, because they hold a lot of the problems. And something that the Great Recovery has been looking into now is finding out who are the problem holders within that network, and then trying to map those people with the designers who can help solve that, because that's what that kind of relationship really then helps the branding and the the companies and the manufacturers to inform how they write the brief.
Would you say what you need is some kind of framework to bring all this together, perhaps in a pre-competitive dialogue, perhaps, so the business feels they can talk to each other and perhaps find solutions?
I think so. And I think it's also about showing what could be done, because obviously, we're building a lot of knowledge about, particularly when people talk about design being part of the process of circularity, they talk about product designers generally, or they think it's about stuff, pieces, objects. Whereas actually what we're discovering is it's not at all. It's about system designers. It's about, as I said before, it's about the communication designers, how you pass on that information. It's also about things like designing of guarantees and warranties, all of those kind of the legal aspects of stuff is going to have to change as well. So all of that information that we're accruing and that kind of experience and knowledge that we're building, we need to pass that on as well and put that into the mix and then, get it all going. But it is very complicated, but in a very good way, because actually what you're doing is you're sort of throwing everything up in the air and saying, well, the existing system is failing because of resource price increase, because of resource security, because of all these different aspects. And actually what we're in a position to do as a from a UK perspective, we have a great legacy of manufacturing. We have a huge amount of skills that we're on the, there's talk about this kind of tipping point where we're going to be, particularly in areas like textiles, where we're going to start losing those skills because they're generational and they're not being passed on properly. There's an opportunity now to pull all that together and to pull the creative industries in and say, there's the opportunity, what do we do with it?
Our own research has revealed a real disconnect, if you like, in that only a fifth of businesses are actually looking to engage with product designers on the circular economy, even though they realise product designers are crucial to this agenda. Have we reason then to be concerned, do you think, given that finding?
I think there's always been a problem with the definition of design, and that actually you see it in lots of different levels, from government right down into small businesses, all the way through, that actually people think of design as being something that is about surface and something that is about products. What's interesting about about true circular economics is that you actually have to design at very different levels. So it's about the system level. So it's about designing new supply chains, looking at the system and the flow of information. It's about building and designing the economic business case as well. It's also about the service level, so designing new platforms for leasing products, etc. It's also about the product level that you've described, and then it goes further in. So there's lots of discussion now about designing at molecular level as well. If we're talking about proper material flow, what actually does that mean? So I think what we can do as an organisation is to try and help businesses to understand the breadth of what design can bring to them.
And when you say we need to design at different levels, what does that mean for the waste industry in particular? How does the waste industry need to redesign itself to help kind of participate in this circular economy?
Well, I think they are either on the cusp of something great or the edge of a cliff.
Right.
Because I think actually if they, a few years back I went to the Netherlands on a government mission for designing out landfill, and talked to a lot of landfill companies out there who, because of the landfill ban that came in the late 90s, they had to redefine themselves and re-engineer their business. And in a way, there's great opportunity. There's great opportunity in the kind of material streams that are currently flowing back out of the UK in terms of the way that we're very good at sorting. We don't have the capacity yet to completely reprocess and get it back into the industrial and the manufacturing landscape within the UK. So there's great opportunity. And I think having a discussion between design and end of life, for me, is the most interesting area for opportunity, because designers do a lot of discussion with with manufacturers, with the kind of the consumer end of products and services, but very rarely do we actually have conversations with the resource management sector and also the material sectors as well. So I think there is a great synergy that could be brought together, which will actually help a lot of the process and flow for circular. systems.
It's very interesting, and I suppose on a human level we all need to become a lot more curious, don't we, about product life cycles and wanting to know more, I guess, about the journey of a particular product or material flow. So there's a great sort of storytelling opportunity here, but how do we begin on that one?
Well, it's a very interesting question, because one of the things that we do when we take, designers and all the the people that come to the workshops, is that we take them on a journey of what we're calling a source mapping. So we've been looking at, say, objects like a laptop, and actually taking it from the tantalum when it comes out, when it comes out of the ground, goes into a capacitor. Then what other ingredients go into that laptop, and how many? Where does that happen? And actually mapping it globally. And the complexity of that is so incredible. When you start looking at this laptop, which may have cost you like £300, you buy it from your local shop. It's actually probably been around the world in terms of how it's been made, where it's been shipped to, all the different elements that come in, about 4 times.
Wow.
You can't actually, it's such a shocking thing, and it's kind of, you can't actually get your head around it properly, when you just buy an object. So I think it's interesting at the moment as well. We are looking more into supply chains. The fact that I think supply chains now have got so big in terms of this incredible capacity to go around the world, where we source all of the elements that go into all of our products. And you're seeing this now in the food supply chains, particularly in the news. I think there will come a point where we really will start questioning where things come from, and I hope that happens, because actually that will set the ground for not only deconstructing some of these incredibly, huge product miles that go round and round and round, to something that could actually be quite local, and looking at what we have in the UK and what's potentially could be a growth industries, etc.
In a last question, really, I think at the moment, when you look at the circular economy, we're about 19% circular, I believe. During your lifetime, what realistically do you think we'll get to in terms of a percentage?
Well, it really depends on a lot of factors, doesn't it? I mean, in terms of material security, I mean, there's a big issue around who holds what kind of mines are going to be opened up.
If you were to have a stab at it,
I would hope. I'd like to be optimistic and say 50%.
Wow.
Because I think actually there's the potential for the UK is so great. The question is how big those circles are, for me. Whether are they Europe-wide? At the moment they're just, these, as I said, they're just massive, and they're very, the kind of supply chains is just so hard to get a grip of, because they go everywhere, and it's all about commodity price, best price, etc. So I think there's great opportunity in it. I think for me it's about are we brave enough to grab it and invest in it as a country?
Great, that's great stuff, very positive. Let's hope it all plays out. Thanks a lot, Sophie.